What happens to the price of a good or service when something changes in the market? Can you predict how a change in the environment will influence the price of a good and the quantity traded? Well, you can using the tool that we developed in the last lecture. Here's what a competitive equilibrium looks like. The competitive equilibrium is the price and quantity where supply and demand are equal. That is, it's the price at which the quantity demanded on the red curve is equal to the quantity supplied on the blue curve. Now, anytime we change anything that is held constant when we draw this picture, we have to redraw the picture. That means if we change consumer income, the price of substitute goods, the price of complement goods, expectations, or if we change input prices or technology, we have to shift the curves. And when the curves shift, we have to find a new equilibrium price and quantity. Let's take an example. Suppose we consider a case where in the market for bread there's a change in the price of a substitute good. Let's suppose that bagels become more expensive. If bagels become more expensive, what will happen to the price of bread and the quantity of bread traded? Well, there is a series of steps that you should go through to answer a question like this. And this series of steps will help you anytime you try to solve one of these problems. The first step is identify which side of the market is affected. If the price of bagels goes up, who cares, buyers or sellers? The answer is buyers care because bagels are a substitute for bread for consumers. That's the first thing you need to resolve. Who cares, buyers or sellers? Because that tells you which curve you're going to be shifting. The second question, how will the change affect the curve? So if the price of a substitute good increases, we know we're going to be dealing with the demand curve, but will it shift in or will it shift out? The answer in this case is the curve shifts outwards. When the price of a substitute good increases, the demand for bread increases as well. That is, customers are going to want to buy more bread at every price. So the demand curve for bread shifts outwards. The third question you want to answer is, what happens to the equilibrium? That is, after you shift the curve, which direction will the bidding mechanism take the price of the good? Will it take it up or will it take it down? Let's look at this example carefully. If the price of a substitute good increases, we know that the demand for bread is going to increase. So the demand curve is going to shift outwards in this direction. And we'll have a new demand curve, which we could label D prime. Here it is. And this is the demand curve after the change in the price of bagels. Next thing you want to notice is, at the original price for bread, say $2.10 per loaf, the quantity of bread demanded is now larger than the quantity supplied. The quantity supplied hasn't changed because at a price of $2.10, we would still be at this particular point on the blue curve, still with, say, 5 loaves of bread supplied each week. However, with the increase in the price of bagels, the quantity demanded has increased to a new point over here on this new red curve. The old red curve doesn't apply anymore because of a change in the environment. With an increase in the price of the substitute good, the quantity demanded is now over here on this new red curve, even though the supply is still over here on the old blue curve. We've now got a gap between quantity demanded and quantity supplied at the original price of $2.10. Well, you know what's going to happen next. We have an excess demand for bread, and that's going to cause the bidding mechanism to kick in. The price of bread is going to be bid up. And as the price of bread is bid up, some buyers will leave the market and new sellers will enter the market. As the quantity demanded shrinks with the rising price and the quantity supplied increases, we will approach a new competitive equilibrium. We will approach a new equilibrium with a higher price and a larger quantity of bread traded. Let me go ahead and draw this curve in and show you this adjustment process very carefully. We have a new demand curve. The new demand curve results from the increase in the price of a substitute good. With consumers wanting to buy a larger quantity of bread at every price, the demand curve is now shifted out here. Well, that gives us a problem because at the original price, the quantity supplied, the point on the blue curve, is now less than the quantity demanded over here on the new red curve. So the distance between these 2 points is an excess demand at the original price. That causes the bidding mechanism to kick in. And as the price rises, buyers begin to buy less bread than they were buying before. We have a movement along our new demand curve. We have a decrease in quantity demanded as the price is bid up. Over here on the supply curve, the rising price leads new suppliers to enter the market, or existing suppliers to increase the quantity they supply. As the price rises, suppliers can cover rising opportunity costs associated with providing more bread to the market. Eventually, we reach this point at which the quantity demanded and quantity supplied are equal with the new demand curve and the original supply curve. This new price and new quantity are our new competitive equilibrium. So if I draw a dashed line over to the price axis, I could call this P star prime, the new higher price. And if I draw a dashed line down to the quantity axis, I could label this Q star prime, an increase in the quantity traded. So the market for bread has gotten a little bit bigger because bagels, a substitute, are now less attractive. More consumers buying more bread at every price leads to an increase in the price of bread and an increase in the quantity of bread traded. We got rid of our excess demand through the bidding mechanism, which pushed up the price. And as buyers and sellers adjusted to the new higher price, the quantity traded changed. This is just one example of how a change in the environment will shift one of the curves and create a new competitive equilibrium. In the next lesson, we'll look at a whole catalog of factors that can shift the demand curve or shift the supply curve, thereby changing the competitive equilibrium price and quantity traded.